hearing the song, I think I already mentioned that I felt like it was, perfect for the illustration. And it was upon first listen. I mean, it's I liked that it's a song that it takes you on a journey because it starts very subtle and it grows and builds and then kind of comes back down in the end. And the vocals at first, I didn't realize it was something that you had sampled, so I thought maybe you were doing them, but they were like so wild. So I mean, there was a lot of soul to them, but they reminded me of that like Screaming Jay Hawkins and stuff like that. There's a lot of soul, but it's very strong, and singing those lines about, devils early in the morning, devils coming to get me. We're going down to hell. And I was like, whew, this is like heavier than a lot of the Slayer tunes you want to listen to. So, so I don't know. Immediately it conjured up visuals because, of course, there's the built-in narrative of the Robert Johnson story. And for me, that meant the video. Well, at the beginning, I mean, in our early conversations, we talked about maybe it just being kind of looping some things and being a bit more abstract. And I thought, yeah, maybe in the middle it can be doing that. But as I worked on it more, it felt like it needed to be a continuous narrative, a continuous story. And I mean, the story is already there. It's just sort of filling in your own interpretation of filling in the blanks because, we don't really know. I did do some research on the legend, but it's also hearsay. And so I borrowed here and there from the different things about Robert Johnson's life. And also I didn't know that if we really wanted to say it was Robert Johnson, just to sort of imply, because I'm sure every old blues man has a story, everyone, all of them somehow had a run with the devil, it seems. That was the beginning. And then just figuring out where to start, where to go. So I got the idea, well, you're going to start with the devil. For the devil, I did a bunch of sketches. I wanted him to also have that sort of distorted, longer face that almost fits the original illustration. And I played with him being really red, but it seemed too cartoony. So in the video, he's very dark, which in black, I mean, which is kind of matches the story that Robert Johnson told, So we start in hell, and it's like imagining what that would be like. Maybe it's just a void, like just black, it's darkness completely. And so that sort of allowed me to play visually with very graphic, sort of like the flames behind him at the beginning they're very graphic, and treating it that way, it just suddenly light bulbs were going off. The initial storyboard came together pretty quickly. Of course, there were the moments of staring at the blank sheet and also figuring out how things are going to work, but it came together pretty quickly, I think. And the one thing that I didn't realize is how long 5 minutes and 20 seconds was going to be, because the initial storyboard, which I thought was going to be long enough, maybe I needed to add a little bit, but I was wrong. That was like basically halfway through. I ended up doing I'll share them with you. I'll send them to you, but they're really rough sketches for myself to give me a storyboard of sorts to follow the narrative along and keep pushing it along without it getting too repetitive or anything. Almost probably like 90% of it is Photoshop. And here's this kind of goes along with what we were talking about, the obstacles, if there were any, is my computer is, and I'm a little embarrassed to say, it's getting a little old. It's almost 10 years old now. It's a big Mac Pro. It's been great, knock on wood. But I was pushing it to its limits with this. And at times it was a little frustrating because it was kind of choking. Doing everything in Photoshop, having multiple layers. And I know that there's software like After Effects or whatever that I could use, but I didn't want it to have a super smooth look. To me, that went against the aesthetic of how the song feels, about how the vibe of what we were trying to show. I wanted it to still feel, I don't know, not archaic, but just like it was from a different time. Not everything super smooth. And sure, things aren't exactly animated beautifully and smoothly, but I felt like that was the beauty. The ugliness was the beauty in it. So that even the stuff of just sort of things sliding and moving is still done by hand in Photoshop, scooching it along. It's crazy, but I know Photoshop pretty well. And it was for me to get up and just go and run and create. And I know I could do it in Photoshop easier than taking the time. I know a little bit of After Effects, but it was just the look wasn't right. It was too smooth. And I don't know how to mess around with After Effects well enough to get the wonkiness or whatever that I felt like this video needed. And so almost all of it, all the animation, it was done in Photoshop except for the scene where like Robert Johnson is walking and he like the silhouette of him. It's a program called Character. So I drew him all out, all the peak parts, and then brought it into Character. That way I could animate him. So, because that was extremely time consuming. I started out trying to do it in Photoshop and it looked too bad. It was just too distracting. So I read about this program. I downloaded it, quickly learned the how to use it, pulled that together, and I was fairly happy with how it was going to live with the rest of the stuff. I would love to do more another music video or even do album covers because music is very big part of my life. It's also my other passion. So if there's any bands out there that want to talk, I mean, we can figure something out.